Hello and welcome to the Keisha Phillips Podcast Talk Show. Greetings, everyone. Yesterday topic we discussed what makes a good podcast, and today we are going into relationships. What's the first question you should ask when you meet a man or a woman? What is the first question? Besides their name, where they're from, what they do, so it's like their occupation or career. Besides that, when you get through the standard questions, what is the next, what direction do you take that conversation in? Do you openly ask the question up front? Are you available? Do you think that that's an appropriate question to ask a person when you first meet that person? Yes. And let me tell you why. Because if that person isn't available, and when you define available means they're not married, they're not living with a woman, they're not in a relationship, they're not engaged, then that's what available means. Available means they are available. They're free to date. They're free to conversate. You're free to spend time together. Go places, do things. That's available. So the first question or part of that conversation should include the question, are you available? Because in all actuality, in all honesty, if that person is not available, then why would you give them your phone number? What's the purpose of giving a man or a woman your phone number if they're not even available? Somebody asked me the question, what does it take for someone to get your number? They got to first be available. If they're not available, then what is there for us to talk about? I don't get involved with married men. I don't get involved with men that are not available. I don't believe in being second to no other woman. I'm not going to be no man's side piece. I don't get involved and do affairs and all these type of things, sneaking around and all this. So if that person, that man, is not available, then why would I give them my phone number? What could we possibly talk about? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Oh, I ain't gonna stay with. Here go my phone number, and once you become available, give me a call. What the hell? I'm not gonna do that. So, one of the number one questions I feel that you should ask is, are you available? Because if that person is not available, then as far as I'm concerned, we don't have anything to conversate about. So why would they need my telephone number? Just think about that. I don't give my number to every man that I meet anyway. But if that man is not available, then what is there that we even need to be conversating about? Absolutely nothing. What are good relationship questions? When you start asking, thinking about some things and talking about some things, what do you find is a good relationship question? How do you strike up that conversation? How do you determine what is appropriate, what's not appropriate, what you should talk about, what you shouldn't talk about, certain topics? What is okay to discuss in I guess you could say, the opening stages of meeting someone? And what do you find not to be okay? Okay? So if you had to look at it in that perspective, what do you find is an appropriate question to ask a person when you first meet them? Whether you're talking about a man or whether you're talking about a female, what is appropriate? What do you think is considered to be appropriate versus what's not appropriate? Do you think it's appropriate to talk about finances when you first meet a person? Do you think it's appropriate to talk about careers? Do you think it's appropriate to talk about intimacy? Do you think that we're in the year 2024? Do you think it's inappropriate to sleep with somebody that you on the first date?
Do you think it's appropriate to have one night stands? We're in 2024, and so much has changed in today's society, the generations. What do you think is appropriate versus what's not appropriate? What do you think you should do versus what you should not do? And what is that love? What is that love language? What is that language indicating? When you say, okay, we're gonna sit down and you say, well, tell me a little bit about yourself. How long have you been involved with your current woman that you're involved with, or current, if it's a man, you asking about the females in his life. And then if it's a female, you're asking the guy, what would define your love language? Do you think it's appropriate to talk about marriage? Do you think that men get scared when a woman starts talking about being serious or in committed relationships? What about females? Are you fearful of long-term or commitments? Are we even making commitments anymore? What do you think should be the most appropriate way to approach certain conversations? What's the best relationship advice you've ever gotten? What does you determines, like, what do you think as a couple? What's an activity that you can do that make you feel alive? Do you share your dreams? How long do you be involved with a person before you become supportive of one another's dreams and goals? Would you relocate to be with a person? Would you marry somebody if you only have known them for a short period of time? But what defines a short period of time? Do you think it's important to date before marriage? Do you think it's important to have a long engagement? A year engagement? Do you think that's important? Do you think it takes a whole year to actually plan a wedding? These are just some questions that you ask when you're in that relationship, or when you first meeting a person. Is it good? Is it bad? Do you talk about the good? Do you talk about the bad? Do you talk about their goals? Do you ask some questions like, are you where you thought you would be at this point in your life? What's a long-term goal? What's a short-term goal? You don't want to sound like they're on a job interview, but in a way, when you meet a potential person, it is almost like an interview, because you are trying to get to know that person. And in order to get to know someone, whether it's male or female, you have to ask questions. If you don't ask questions, you'll never get the answers. You never should assume anything about, do you believe in a bucket list? Have you ever sat down with a guy or a female and say, what's on your bucket list? What do you talk about? What is at the top of the list? Do you talk about your childhood? Do you talk about movies? Do you talk about music? Do you talk about college, if you're in college? Favorite foods, things that you like to do, places you want to go? Do you talk about the possibility of eventually living together? What is appropriate? Or do you just kind of sum it all up and talk about it all? At this point, what is appropriate? What is appropriate? If you want to strengthen your relationship, if you're already in a relationship and you want to strengthen your relationship, what do you ask? What kind of questions is what you define as honest questions? Do you want intimate questions, deep questions? Do you want juicy questions? What is a juicy question? What's your opinion on an open relationship? Would you be involved in what's an open relationship? What do most people define as an open relationship? I'm going to tell y'all something. And this is just my opinion. This is me personally, okay, how I look at open relationships. I'm totally against open relationships, because I feel that if you're going to be in an open relationship, then there is no boundaries of respect. And if you're not going to have respect for one another, and if your spouse or your partner or your significant other is okay with you seeing other people, going places, spending time, being intimate, and all these things with other people, you're out in public, you're doing things, and if you're involved with a man or a woman that's okay with that, then what's the purpose of being with that man or that woman? What's the purpose of being under the same roof with a man or a woman if you're going to be in an open relationship? Because that's no respect there. If you can go out there and be intimate with somebody else and then you can still come home to your significant other and it's no big deal, then what's the point of being married? What's the point in having an open relationship? I mean, I've always asked myself that question. What's the point of an open relationship? I don't know how that ever became a status of a way that some people do relations or their marriage, or because if it's open and you can see other people and be intimate with other people and be all out in public with other people, then why are you married? Why are you married? Where are the boundaries? Where's the respect? There are no rules. There is no trust. So you can go out there and you can be involved with somebody a year and 2 years and 3 years and 4 years, but it's an open relationship. So your significant other is supposed to be aware that you're involved with this person, and in that open situation that you got going on with this person outside your marriage is going on for a year or 2 years or 3 years or 4 years or however long, and that's supposed to be okay. What kind of example does that set for your home front? What foundation is that setting for your home front, for your family, for your children? Then if you say, let's talk about a deep question. What's a deep question? What's your favorite position? When you're being intimate? What's your favorite thing about our relationship? Do you think that's a deep question? I don't think that would be defined to me as a deep question. A deep question is probably something that you've never shared with somebody, something that you're really passionate about, and you felt that you had such a connection with that person that you can share your deepest feelings, your deepest thoughts. I think to me that would be more appropriate to define a deep question. What about what you call an intimate question? What's an intimate question? Where do you like to be touched? What turns you on? Now, do you have your favorite position, intimately wise, sexually wise? Now, that would fall under intimate versus a deep question. Do you think it's appropriate to have those type of conversations with a man or woman that you first met? Then what about after you met that person and you're spending time with that person, you get to know each other, and now you're in a relationship. Now you're saying we're in a committed relationship. Do you still have those conversations? What about once you get married? Do you have those conversations then? Do you just sit down and talk to one another? Or you get comfortable? Is it true that once you become comfortable with a man or a woman, that you start learning a lot of truth about that person? Do y'all disagree with that or agree with that? Do you think that's really true? What if you want to spice up your relationship? What would you do to spice up your relationship? If you right now today you say, you know what, I want to do something really nice and sexy, and I want to draw make that connection, and I want to be connected on a very intimate, very passionate, very romantic, level. What would you do? What would you do to, that love, that trust, just light that flame, that fire. It's like that torch. What would you do? How many people think that their man or their woman is just head over heels, madly in love with you? When was the last time you told your significant other that, baby, I love you, baby, I love you? Do we even say that anymore? Do those words still matter? Think about those things. These are just things that if you wanted to just romance your significant other, what would you do outside of flowers and things like that? If you wasn't going out and buying no flowers or nothing like that, what would you do? Do you even still cuddle in front of a movie? What kind of movie would you sit down and watch with your significant other? What's the most romantic thing you have ever wanted to do? And have you done it? Have you had an opportunity to do that with the person that you think is special to you, or your husband or your wife? Have you done it? What's the one thing that makes you feel, them butterflies, in your stomach, that flutter, when you just be like, wow. Do you hold hands in public? Where are we when it comes to relationships, commitment, and things like that? What is, when you say I love you, what are you saying? What do you really, really mean when you say I love you? Do couples even still say that anymore? And how many times have you been told I love you, and then to come to find out that that person is cheating or being dishonest or deceptive? When is enough? When is enough when it comes into relationships? Do you think there's any such thing as a perfect date, a perfect marriage? What's the most romantic thing your spouse has ever done for you? What do you think is the appropriate time to get married? What's the number one groundbreaking issue that'll cause divorce? When is enough? When you look at your significant other, do you think he's handsome? Do you think she's beautiful? Do you think she's sexy? Do you think a woman wearing lingerie is important? Do you think intimacy should be restricted? Should it? What if your significant other was more into certain things than what you are? Would you be able to adapt to that? Or would you think that's just too much to handle? Or just, what is enough? What are the limitations? Are there limitations in marriage? Do you think there should be limitations in marriage? Anybody have any, what if you met a person and you got a secret crush? Do we even still have secret crushes anymore? What you find is a good conversation starter. What if you really met somebody and you was like, damn, I really want to get to know this person? What would you do? What would you do? What is, when you think about that sometimes, how you be saying, and people get married, and then the woman gonna get married to somebody else, and the man is like, damn. And then somebody say, man, bro, go get your woman. Have you ever been in a wedding and they say, if there's anyone who objects to this person getting married to this man, or why this couple should not get married, speak now and forever hold your peace? Have anybody ever been in a wedding and that actually happened? That somebody actually stood up a former boyfriend or a former girlfriend stood up and said, no, do y'all even invite your exes to your weddings anymore? Is that appropriate? Do you think that's appropriate to invite your former man or your former woman to your wedding? What's appropriate? What's not appropriate? What's acceptable? We're in the year 2024. And when I got married, it was in 1996. So much has changed in them years, in 28 years. A lot has changed in 28 years. And you really can't look at things the same today as it was 28 years ago. I'm divorced and everything at this point, but think about how things were 28 years ago. That's why I'm asking so many different questions, because when I got married, we dated. We got to know each other. We spent time together. We did things. You had the romantic things, the candlelight dinners and the gifts, and you went places together, and you had your place, they had their place, and eventually you started, little by little you began staying at each other's place, and then eventually you got a place together. We did it, I don't know what you call the old-fashioned way, or the way that I guess it was designed for relationships to go. We got to know each other, or, you met each other's parents, and you went through the marriage counseling, all these things before you get married, and we did it. We did it the right way, okay? And we hung out with each other's friends, did things as couples, and eventually we got married. Eventually we had children. And yeah, when I got married, I hadn't had my first child, with this particular man. And I'm not saying that was the main reason why we got married, but of course that always plays a factor. A woman gets pregnant, and then the man be like, well, I'm gonna go ahead and marry her. It happens, okay? And I'm not saying that didn't play a part in how we ended up getting married at that time. But my question though is there ever a right time? Is there ever a right time to say, we're gonna get married, we're gonna do this? Now, yes, we always say, let's get married, we're gonna get our house, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, then we're gonna have kids, and we all want it to be like that. But for the most part, it does not always happen like that. So is there a right way to do it when it comes down to when you decide you want to get married? When you decide, because at this point now, in my particular circumstances, I've been divorced now for a long time, okay? And over a decade. And when you start thinking about that, then you start thinking about, wow, things are not the same. Dating and everything is not the way today that it was 28 years ago. At that time, a man romanced you. He bought you flowers. You went nice places. You did things together. You had the candlelight dinners and all the luxuries and all those things. Now, you hardly don't even get to see that. You took the time and you got to know a person, and you just didn't go jump in the bed and all this. And I'm not saying people didn't do it. I'm not saying that it didn't happen. But I'm saying that that's not the way that I did it. Okay? And when I think about the way that it is today and the way that it was then, yes, a whole lot could have been different. A lot of things should have been different, that you could have done different. But that was then, and you think about, okay, here we are now. It is 2024, and going forward, and you start thinking about, a potential man that can become your husband, getting married, getting remarried. You know, people don't respect marriage the way they used to respect it. You know, at one point in the time, marriage was totally respected. And now you don't have people respecting marriage like they used to. You know, and I can be in a marriage where there is no respect. If you don't respect your wedding vows and you don't respect one another, then what the hell are we doing it for? You gonna pay money and do all this elaborate wedding and do all this for who? For show? God damn it, I ain't got to show what to whom. You know, when you start really, really analyzing the way things are going and the things that people are doing at this point in the year 2024, you start asking questions. You got people out there spending billions of dollars on a wedding. Millions and millions. 80 million, a billion, and all this type of money on a wedding. And every time I think about that, I be asking myself, on what? I think about all the luxuries and everything I can possibly imagine to have a wedding and a reception and an after party. And I cannot come up with such totals that I done spent $50 million and $1 billion. And I just be asking myself, on what? I may love that man with everything within my soul, within my being. But I don't see that we need to go out there and spend $50 million on a wedding. Damn, we don't even need to go spend $20 million on a wedding. Because I think about everything that I would want to be included. And I just don't see how that would come out to be that kind of money. I don't care if we at the top of the line, everything on every level. I just don't see how it can come out to some of these price tags. It's like, oh my God. Now, by all means, it can be as lavish and as elaborate. I can't even, and the only thing that I ask myself, can I see myself in $1 million wedding dress? Or a $2 million or $3 million wedding dress? And I can. I would love to be that woman that walks down the aisle in the most expensive dress that ever was made. I can see that. But then when I think about that, who would even know? Who would even know that I didn't spend all that money on a dress? Or that it's the most expensive dress that ever was made? Would I, when you start asking all these questions, you be like, am I going to be doing this for show? Am I going to be doing this here because of the person that made the dress? And they're going to be, oh, she got on the most expensive the most expensive wedding dress that ever was made. And it's this, it's that. Am I going to be that woman? Would people really know that it's the most expensive wedding dress that ever was made if nobody didn't say anything? Of course not. They'll probably know that it's a beautiful dress. And the dress probably would be so, just, oh my God, you probably would have a bit of loss for words. But even with that being said, I can see the dress. I can see my future husband in a tuxedo or, that's just, overwhelmingly. But would it be $1 million? When you start thinking about things like that, and then I think about 50 million or $1 billion on a wedding, and I'm still asking myself, where's everything at? But marriage is supposed to be sacred. Relationships, you get to know a person and it goes from the relationship to something more serious. Serious goes into an engagement. Engagement is saying that, I've gotten an opportunity to get to know you and I'm loving what I've gotten to know about you and I want to spend the rest of my life with you, and that commitment goes into marriage. And then you plan your wedding, and then you plan a wedding that's suitable for you and the person that you're marrying. It's supposed to be about the two of you. What you want. at your wedding. Whether it's the food, whether it's the music, whether it's your decorations, whether it's your wedding colors, whether it's your wedding party. A wedding is supposed to speak of the two that's getting married. That's what your wedding is supposed to detail. That's the vibe. Well, that's the vibe that I want when I get remarried. I want that vibe to speak of me and my spouse. Because we have chosen each other for these reasons. And these things represent the two of us. Our beliefs, our values, our morals, our future together. That's what it represents. That's what I want. Because all those things together define love. We all marry for different reasons. We all fall in love differently. We all love differently. We all carry our feelings differently. And the only person that matters as far as how all that goes is the two people. Keep your business, people, to yourselves. Keep your relationships private. Things in relationships and marriages need to start being sacred. Everybody don't have to know your business. I don't want everybody knowing my business. You know? I don't care how much my man, may enjoy being in my presence, talking to me, wanting to be around me, loving on me. I don't care how much he love it. He can be head over heels loving it. But I don't want everybody else knowing it. Because it's not everybody's business. Everybody ain't got to know about your jewels, your prize, what you define as yours. Respect one another. Respect your relationships. If you know that if you ain't ready for a commitment, don't make one. If you ain't ready to be married, don't be married. Don't get married. If you're not ready to be in a serious relationship, then don't be in a what? Don't commit to something that you're not ready to do. Don't mislead a person either. If you know you're not happy with the person that you're with, make the changes. Sometimes we outgrow one another. And when you begin to outgrow a person, sometimes you do have to make changes. But in respectable changes. Respect one another. Respect the person's feelings. Just like you want somebody to respect your feelings, respect that person's feelings. You know, we don't have to be out there cheating and screwing around and doing all these things behind one another's backs. Respect your marriage. If you're no longer happy in that situation, then maybe you need to, make some changes. But make respectable changes. Respect that person. Because it's not fair to that person to be disrespected because of choices and things in which you're making. Because those choices affect your household. Think about these things. Sometimes we get so caught up in the moment that we don't think about other people's feelings. We don't think about the other person. But it takes two. Always remember that no matter what you do in life, everything is a choice. Good or bad, everything is a choice. When it comes down to relationships, when it comes down to marriage, when it comes down to commitment, when it comes down to the choices we make, it's a choice. It's things that we don't have to do, but things we do based upon the choices in which that we are making. But always remember about the other person's feelings. Sometimes we get so caught up. But remember, you're getting caught up in a moment. The grass ain't always greener on the other side. Sometimes it appears to be greener at that moment. But then what happens when that little spark die down? That little spark is no longer there. That little thrill is no longer there. Or you come to find out that it's not everything that you thought it would be. What happens then? Because that grass that was greener to you for the last 5 years or the last decade ain't gonna be greener at that time. Because they're gonna be in the moved on. We all can pick up the pieces and move on. And we can always go find us with greener grass too. You have to think about that. You have to think about everything when you begin to make choices. That's why I refuse to be disrespected. I'm open. You want to cheat, you go right ahead. But you don't get to do that shit as long and under the same roof with me. You can go on with your life, because trust me, I'm going to go on with mine. Because we're adults. And that's the one time I agree when people say we're adults, then goddamn it, be an adult and handle your business like an adult. Because when you out there cheating and you out there having them affairs and doing all that, that's what the young ones do. That's what they do when they don't know no better. That's when they do when they think they doing some shit. Having affairs, cheating, messing with this person, that's that generation. And believe me, we got a generation that's out there doing it like that. But even then, because you have so many other things going on. You got STDs, you got, somebody got to set the example. Somebody need to have standards. These are questions that you should be asking when you first meet that person. Let's go back to, are you available? Are you available? Do you cheat? Can you be trusted? Have you ever had an STD? That's the kind of questions, them the conversations you need to be out there having. I'm Keisha, and you've been listening to the Keisha Podcast Talk Show. Thank you for tuning in.